Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday, September 10th edition of the program. ECU is 2-0. Big game coming this Saturday against Appalachian State. We are live, as always, on Facebook, YouTube, X. I am tweeting out the links to all those sites as we speak. Multitasking here on a Victory Tuesday. Pirates again 2-0. Looking ahead to App State, looking for their first 3-0 start, I think, since 08, 09. I haven't officially looked that up this week, but it has been a long time since the Pirates were 3-0. If you got a question, comment, or concern, drop it on any of those platforms. Obviously, the YouTube page on 94.3 The Game. We continue to raise our subscriber numbers there. Give that a click and a notifications bell so you know every time we go live, whether it be this show, the Patrick Johnson Show, the Logan Zone. Give that a like on YouTube. Also like our Facebook page, 94.3 The Game. Download the IBX Media app to hear it all in podcast form. We're also archived on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. And we're streaming live through the HTC 247 Twitter account. So you can find us on just about every platform. All right, every Tuesday during the season, we're going to talk with Maceo Donald, ECU sideline reporter, former ECU running back and receiver. He joins us now. Philip Pilkington producing today. Maceo, the Pirates are 2-0. What's your thoughts on the win over ODU?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's good to get a win, anytime, no matter how it comes. I definitely thought that we were just straight up the better team than Old Dominion, and we kind of showed that on Saturday. Our defense played lights out. I think, they're going to be kind of our backbone this whole season. But all in all, pretty good win for the most part.
So ECU goes into the game. Originally, they were a slight underdog, then the line went to ECU's favor, then it went back to ODU, so it was kind of one of those, it looked like somewhat of a toss-up on paper, but I agree, Maceo. Look, we'll get into the interceptions and all that in a minute, but I expected it to be a one-possession game due to ODU's history, but East Carolina, I thought, looked like the much better team across the board. Physically, they dominated the line of scrimmage, especially defensively. Offensively, they did enough, and I think it's promising that you outgained them by almost 200 yards. Yes, you turned it over 4 times, but you still won. And this is a team that should have beat South Carolina. South Carolina then goes on the road, smokes Kentucky. So, look, I don't know what ODU's record will be at the end of the season, but I think this will end up being a quality win.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And you're absolutely right. I mean, we were obviously the better team. I think our DBs were could cover those guys one-on-one. Our defensive line was better. We got Winston Wright involved in Saturday. That was kind of unexpected for me. But it was still kind of a sloppy game, I'm sure, on Sunday and today out at practice. Coach Houston's kind of being on the guys about details and execution. But we were just obviously the better team. But we've got to clean some things up before Saturday gets here.
All right, Maceo Donald with us here on this Tuesday. Maceo, look, let's address the elephant in the room. 7 interceptions through 2 games. I mean, I don't know the last time a quarterback has thrown that many picks and the team be 2-0. I don't know if Elias Sports Bureau can help us out with the facts there or what, but it's one of those things where I don't think it's sustainable. I think most people in Pirate Nation realize that. The coaches and players realize that. So what do you make of the situation with the quarterback and the interceptions while they're still having offensive success moving the ball?
Yeah, first off, I mean, you can't accept anything you would in a win that you would in a loss. So, I mean, the interceptions are unacceptable, and they've got to clean that up a lot before Saturday gets here. I think our first 2 games against Norfolk and Old Dominion, I think we were across the board just a better team, better talent, better coaching, better scheme. But that won't get it done as you keep going on. So, Garcia, I think they still have a lot of faith in him. Obviously, I mean, he's, like you said, we outgained him by almost 200 yards. We turned the ball over in the red zone. And if we kind of played maybe possibly a better team, it could have gone the other way. They returned a kick late in the game. They got called back. So we were, a handful of plays of looking at it completely different. But, the interceptions are unacceptable. I think we all know that.
We're visiting with Maceo Donald, ECU sideline reporter, former skill player with the Pirates. Now you can hear him on the ECU Sports Network. He'll be on the sideline this weekend versus Appalachian State. You can hear it on 94.3 The Game as well as 107.9 WNCT. All right, Maceo. So I guess with the interceptions, I mean, if you're winning the games, ECU's 2-0, you still roll forward. Obviously, like you said, you try to fix the issues. It seems like the team, we talked to Winston Wright today and some of the other players. The team still believes in Jake. Obviously, he said, Winston said there's some things the receivers can do better to help out Jake. Not all the picks are on him, but still 7 picks, at least some of them are on him as the quarterback. So is this fixable is my thing? Or is this going to be a consistent issue with this offense?
It's definitely fixable, but I think when you're looking at a guy like Jake who hasn't, had that many starts or really hasn't started since he was a high school player, it'll get cleaned up, but it's almost something that you have to work through. And, time isn't always on our side. Like we said, we played pretty two opponents. We were pretty much outmatched, but we're going into a stretch where we got App. Then they go on to play Liberty and then UTSA, I believe. So, I mean, I don't think we can have 2 turnovers and beat those teams. It's definitely something that they have to work through, and I think just practice reps, obviously timing with the receivers. And honestly, look, I mean, a lot of the times the quarterback looks at fault, but just from being a player and having experience, some of the time, I would say probably 60% of the time it's the receiver's fault and 40% quarterback's fault. So it's definitely something they're going to have to work through, and I think the wins are, maybe overshadowing it a little bit, and, you maybe aren't hitting it as hard as you would if it was losses, but the turnovers are never good. You have to win the turnover battle.
Yeah, I would say after the first game, Maceo, Jake Garcia, I want to say he wasn't taking it seriously, but he almost kind of laughed off the interception. Was like, look, I'll learn from it. I got to get better. We got the win. We'll move on. This game, he was much more serious. Look, I mean, he was happy with the win. He credited his defense. He credited his receivers, but he was like, look, there's got to be some accountability here. I take responsibility for it. And he seemed pretty determined to cut it out. And I know just talking with people, he's over there watching a lot of film. So I don't know, man. I feel like he's saying all the right things, and now it's just a matter of going and doing it. So we'll see how that plays out long term. Maceo, what did you think of the offense as a whole around Jake Garcia and the win over ODU?
I mean, other than that, they looked great. I mean, we didn't score as many points as we did the week before, but I think just efficiency and just guys getting the ball, I think it was a big deal of getting Winston Wright involved, especially his kick return production in the first game. I think he was definitely someone that we didn't get the ball to. And obviously in the run game, it was a lot of questions. We only ran the ball a handful of times really against Norfolk State. And you obviously got Rajay involved early. We saw him look kind of light and slim on Saturday, breaking out for a 63-yarder. So I think it was still well balanced and I think they did exactly what they wanted to do except for the turnovers. So I think that's just the biggest thing moving on is staying consistent, having a balanced offense, getting the running game involved. Marlon Gunn also had a great game on Saturday as well. So I think, we saw Chase Sowell out there. We didn't see as much as Brock Spalding. I think Jari Patterson also had 2 or 3 catches on Saturday. So it's well balanced. You're kind of getting a lot of guys involved. We gotta limit those turnovers, man.
So ECU runs 93 offensive plays, Maceo. 93. That counts, the penalty plays. Like Sowell, a lot of those guys were on the field for 80-plus plays at receiver. The entire offensive line played all 93 snaps. What do they have to do this week in practice? They're not used to playing that much. I mean, that is a ton of football. What's the recovery like this week to be fresh for Saturday?
I mean, I think the biggest recovery was Sunday and yesterday, Monday, just the beginning of the week, getting the cold tub, getting your legs back under you. But it's also something I think you're just kind of working towards over the season. We'll probably look back in about a month or two and be like, okay, the offensive line is kind of settled. They kind of understand their wins under them. But, I mean, this week is going to be a big deal. And I think we're going to see the best defense we've seen all year. We're probably going to see the best special teams we've seen all year. So I think this game, everybody kind of has this marked on their schedule and kind of knows the history and kind of what this means in the state of North Carolina.
It's kind of funny, Maceo, with the offense. It's like after game one, people were like, we want to see the run more. They were throwing the ball too much. After this game, it was like, oh, man, they're back to running the ball. They're being conservative. My read on it is, and you're a former player, you've been in these meeting rooms. I think, like a lot of offenses, but especially this offense, it's designed to take what the defense gives you. So, look, if you got a 5-man box, a 6-man box, with their Sam linebacker shaded out on the receiver, like you're gonna take the run more times than not. So that was my read on it. I don't know. Do you feel like they were being too conservative, or do you feel like it was more what the defense was giving them?
Yeah, I mean, it's in anything. If you see something and you want to take advantage of what you think they're not good at or what they've given up in the past. So, I mean, against Norfolk State, we felt like we could throw against them, and I know that we talked about Norfolk State's offensive line being kind of big, or defensive line being kind of big. So they might have wanted to throw it more. And then this week, we probably felt like we could run all day on them, which we did. I mean, Rajay had one of his biggest games of his career. And also Marlon Gunn was in there kind of moving the piling forward a lot throughout the game. So, I mean, it's not like Coach David Baker is just back there just being like, oh, I feel like running it today, or I feel like throwing it today. They're literally going hours of film studying and seeing what they do that we can take advantage of. And on Saturday, they did that.
Maceo Donald is with us. He is the sideline reporter for ECU football. You can hear him this Saturday. Some comments from Justice Bradburn. He says JDB's play calling has been excellent. Chance Scott, who will join us the second half of the show, Hoist the Colors intern, says JDB called a beautiful game. Garcia has made a lot of really good reads, especially when he's not throwing those picks. Look, this is a high-stress offense for the quarterback. He's got to make a lot of post-snap, pre-snap decisions. But 2-game sample size with JDB, first time calling plays, Maceo. What do you think of the offensive flow, everything there?
I mean, it's been great. I mean, I've had a bunch of conversations with former players, and we're like, dang, we kind of wish that we could have just tested this offense out a little bit, just because the multitude of things that you can do. I mean, you might look at it as like we want to throw it a lot or we want to run it a lot. I mean, it's great to be able to do both, and I think he's shown us that in these first 2 games. And obviously, as the season goes on, we'll see. We might have to run a little bit more here or throw a little bit here. And I don't have the game plan with me, and I haven't talked to any coaches or players this week. But you can probably expect us to throw it a lot more Saturday against App State than we have this past week.
Maceo Donald with us. All right, we'll hit a few more things on ODU, then we'll move to App State here in a little bit. The defense, Maceo, I mean, look, we've talked so much about the offense, rightfully so, all the changes, but the defense, in my opinion, really won the game, especially in the second half when I thought ECU, after the 4 picks, was a little more conservative offensively. They make the decision to punt it back after running it 3 times around midfield, and then the defense gets to stop. So, look, this is basically what we expected from this defense, and having done this a long time, Maceo, it's kind of rare for what we expect going into a season to play out like that. So I just think that shows a lot about where this defense's mentality is at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think those guys kind of know, especially coming off of last season. I mean, the record didn't look great, but we were in pretty much every game that they played last year, our defense, and it was because of our defense. So I think this year our defense has a mentality of, we don't care what the offense is doing. We're going to do our thing. And I think you have talented guys across the board in the trenches and in the secondary. And just to talk about Chavon Revel, there's a reason why those DBs play defense and our offense. I mean, he dropped another pick on Saturday, even though he had one. He would probably be leading the country in picks. I mean, he's all over those guys on the outside and IBM as well. So I think Blake Harrell and that defense just has a different mentality. It doesn't matter the score. It doesn't matter the team we're playing. I think they have, the job that they want to do in mind.
Chavon Revel, you mentioned it. I mean, he had a pick 6 walk in if he makes that catch. And then he makes the tough pick. I'm like, come on, Chavon. We'll have to give him a hard time for that. But, look, I looked at the stats from Pro Football Focus. They said that Old Dominion threw it Chavon 11 times. They completed 4 passes. One of those was the touchdown, which he got crossed up with Mike Edwards and actually bumped into him and then lost his man. So still graded out well. But I was surprised ODU threw at him a lot. I asked Coach Houston about it yesterday, Maceo. He said basically they were leaving him man coverage. And then this offense that ODU's running, which is similar to ECU, it tells you to take the shot. So I think if you're ECU, you're just fine with a team throwing at Chavon 11 times a game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to lose a game, please keep throwing at Chavon. Like, please keep throwing at him because, I mean, this guy has everything you want: length, speed, size, patience. I mean, we were playing against Chavon on scout team when he first got there, and we were seeing him 2 years ago be like, he's our best corner that we have. When you have a Malik Fleming and other guys in our defensive backs. So, I mean, he's one of those real guys, and I would challenge, some of the other teams to keep going at him, and I don't think it will go in their favor.
All right, last question from the ODU game before we get a break in. Special teams, Maceo, I thought was crucial. Look, obviously the mishap before halftime, we've talked about a lot, written about a lot, but Conrad comes back from the missed extra point, which was I think very wind-aided. The gusts on the field were brutal, and it happened right as he kicked that and the goalpost situation. But either way, he comes back, he makes a big kick to put him up. By a couple scores late, 50 yards. And Luke Larson, I thought, had a crucial punt under pressure to pin them back deep. So it seems like that phase has been pretty strong through 2 weeks.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I think, we made some big plays on Saturday, but you also saw some lapses on Saturday as well. It worked in our favor when they fumbled the kick return. And you're probably right, it was wind related. But that kick return, I think the kick went to like the 20. And you don't want that on a kickoff team to kick it to the 20 and give them a chance for a return like that. And also just our punt coverage, that blocking it back or whatever they called against ODU on Saturday. I mean, that could have changed the game right there. So they've been pretty much lights out. I only would say 2 marks that they had this past week, but it's going to be big just as the season goes on.
Yeah, Kerry King, I will say he was getting held the whole way down the field. He did a good job of selling it as well because it can easily be missed. So good job by number 7 there. All right, let's get a break in. Maceo will come back. We'll turn the page to App State. We may hit on some NFL and college football as a whole as well. This is Hoist the Colors.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast, Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina, Southern Living's best small town.
Pirate game days, there's nothing like them. The atmosphere, first down, the tradition, the matchups, the magical finishes. Be a part of Pirate Game Days. Season tickets are as low as $115. Reserve your seat today to be a part of the experience of Pirate Game Days at Dowdy Ficklin Stadium this fall.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
What's happening? Tell me what's happening.
Every ECU fan's one stop for all things ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors here on this Tuesday, September 10th edition of the show. Pirates, we're getting ready for App State this Saturday, 4 o'clock kickoff inside Dottie Ficklin Stadium. Every Tuesday, we're going to have Maceo Donald join us. He is with us now for segment number 2. Maceo, App State. Let's get into this game. You know, we kind of said in the preseason we felt like this was the biggest game on ECU's schedule. I think it'll have a big game field. Sounds like a potential sellout or at least upper 40,000s. I think this game's going to be personal for both teams. You know, obviously ECU has been, I would say, a little embarrassed by App State the last 2 times. Then you got App coming off an embarrassing loss to Clemson. So, I don't know. What do you expect? A pretty highly emotional game on Saturday?
Yeah, anytime you play an in-state rival or just anybody in-state, you kind of want to show that you're the best or the best that season. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of, you know, hits. You might see some flags, late flags in the game, but it would definitely be a high emotions out there on Saturday. I think the last 2 times we've lost by double digits, and a lot of the guys that were on those teams are still on the team now, especially when you talk about our defensive front, Deontay Johnson, Elijah Morris, Surad Ware. A lot of those guys were there. Roger Harris was there as well. So a lot of those guys remember. And if you think back just to last year when we were in Boone, you know, we came out pretty good. You know, our first drive, Roger got, I think, a 10-yard run. We got down to a red zone with Alex Flynn as quarterback. So, I mean, we showed some signs that we can get after them, but we just got to sustain that for 60 minutes.
App State, offensively, they run, you know, the outside zone, the stretch. They love to hit the play action off of that. That is what their whole, you know, offensive scheme is designed around. It's been that way basically since Satterfield was there, and they've had multiple head coaches that have done it. Sean Clark there now doing it again. And the last meeting didn't have as much success with it, but still hit some big plays with Joey Aguilar at quarterback. But I remember 21, ECU could not stop the stretch run and just got gashed on the ground. Maceo, you were on that team. So I don't know. What do you remember about just that meeting and how difficult that offense can be to stop if they get rolling?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to stop that outside zone just because of, one, how their offensive line schemes it and blocks it, but 2, there's also a cutback lane in every outside zone you run, right? So their offensive line, they don't do just kind of, you know, zone into one guy, zone into the next. You'll see those offensive linemen get up and literally run side to side. So that kind of just stretches our defense out. And then there's always a cutback lane there. When in the running back room, you were always taught on outside zone to read the first guy on the end and then the second guy. And if those guys are outside of you, you cut it back. So you're going to see a lot of cutback lanes. You're going to see a lot of play action off of that as well. And if I remember correctly, I think last year they kind of did a little bit of tempo off of that as well. You know, lining up, running outside zone one way, lining up quick, running outside zone the other way. So it's definitely going to challenge our defensive guys. I mean, it's obviously our biggest challenge that those guys have seen all year up to this point.
App comes in despite losing to Clemson big, averaging 5.5 yards per carry offensively. And again, that's a really good number. 4 new starters up front. They brought in a lot of transfers. I think they've got the backs they want to run. I think they're still trying to figure out some things with the transfer offensive line. So if there's a phase that I think may favor ECU, it's that ECU defensive line versus their O-line. You know, we talked with Elijah Morris earlier, Maceo, and I asked him, I was like, what is the toughest thing about stopping the stretch? And he just said, just discipline. You know, it's not the option per se, but if you get out of your gap and the run fits aren't where they need to be, you know, running back can spring one quickly. So he said basically everybody's got to fit their gap. D-line's got to hold their gap. So, you know, my main concern, I guess, if I'm ECU is if you get a defensive player trying to do too much, that's when you get hit with a big cutback and a big run. So they'll be charged up defensively, but they also got to play their discipline and their responsibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's every game. You know, some offensive schemes just stress you a little bit more. I mean, like the option or even just like this outside zone that they love to run. But that's every game. You just have to execute and go out there and do your job, really. But, I mean, it's just all these in-state games are always just hard to play against. I mean, you see I think our last, 4 in-state games have been 2 against State, 2 against App State, and you just see kind of all the energy surrounding the game. And a lot of times when you have all that emotion and energy, you're just ready to go, and you might forget, this is my assignment, or you just want to make the extra play instead of just doing your job and sticking to your assignment. So I think that's the biggest thing. I know Coach Houston's going to stress this week, do your job. Don't do anything outside of what we're asking you to do.
Maceo Donald is with us, ECU sideline reporter, former player for the Pirates. All right, looking at App State's defense, they have struggled. A lot of these numbers, of course, coming via the Clemson game. They were down 35-0 at the end of the first quarter. I went back and watched the first half just to figure out what the heck happened. And they just gave up explosive play after explosive play. They gave up a huge run to Phil Maffa, but they mainly just got gassed in the air. Cade Klubnik, I will say, looked incredible. He was dropping the ball in a bucket. A few of the plays there wasn't even bad coverage on. But if you're ECU and you see the film, I mean, the one thing that sticks out to me is you have to take deep shots against App State. Now, I guess, Maceo, they're going to spend all week trying to fix their safety coverage, their deep ball help. ECU is going to try to attack it. And then for ECU, you also want to stay away from turnovers. So, I don't know, that's a dynamic I'm interested in seeing because, obviously if you throw the ball deep, that's a greater risk, but also greater reward. And then if you're App, you're trying to fix it, but also create turnovers. So what do you think about that matchup?
I mean, I think, that's going to be the key to the game. And, any game you don't want to turn the ball over, but especially a game where you might feel like that you would rather pass than run the ball. And I think in the past we haven't ran the ball too great against App State. I think you just definitely have to be confident, but also cautious of what you want to do out there. And especially for Garcia, I think his keys will be just don't do anything outside of yourself. If the read's not there, throw it out of bounds or just live to fight another day. I don't think you should force anything, especially when you have chances to score, because if we don't go down there and score when we get in the red zone or make the plays when they're there, I think it'll be that much harder for us to beat these guys. And, I think, I think App is like a slight favorite, 2.5 points, 3.5 points, something like that. So, I mean, I agree with that. It's going to be a close one. And in those close matchups, is the team that makes the fewest mistakes will always win, usually.
Anthony Smith got behind the ODU defense a couple times, and we talked about the win earlier, Maceo. I was down the field taking pictures. He was like 3 steps behind the corner, and I don't think Jake could have thrown it any harder, and the ball just died due to the wind. So I don't know how it came off on the broadcast. I know it looked like underthrows, but I think you were going to see Anthony Smith catch him one of those deep balls pretty soon. By the way, the broadcast for the ODU game, I forgot to ask you about it. Heard it's pretty bad. You're doing sideline reporting this year. You're doing the home game. So was the broadcast as bad as people made it sound like?
Yeah, it was probably worse than Brady's debut on Sunday. But I mean, the cameras were off a little bit. I mean, I don't think they knew too much about the players on both sides, really. But good thing we'll be at home this week, and hopefully these guys will know a little bit more about our players. But I think the broadcast this past Saturday was, we might not need to talk about it too much more, man.
The ESPN Plus, broadcast for ODU just, not up to par, I would say. But hopefully the Pirates can get a much better feel. This week it'll be a linear broadcast, ESPNU, so ESPN will be in charge of it. Hopefully it'll be much better across the board. Maceo Donald with us. All right, Maceo, prediction time. Any gut feeling for ECU, App State at this time as we sit here on Tuesday?
I don't have a gut feeling yet. I'm always going to roll with the Pirates. And I think this year is just special. I think the guys have a lot of momentum going on right now. And like we haven't started 2-0 since you said, I think, 2008. So, I mean, it's definitely a lot of momentum and confidence, but I don't think that – I hope that they don't, kind of have overconfidence that we're just going to go out there and beat these guys. In any game, you shouldn't have that. But I'll say this. I think it's going to be a close one. No matter who wins in the end, I think it's going to be a very close game. I think that 3.5, 2.5 points, I think that's going to be dead on.
Should be a great environment, and I think when ECU gets a packed house, they usually play well. So we'll see what happens with the game on Saturday, but I do expect a close, hard-fought game. All right, Maceo Donald with us. Last thing for you, Maceo. We're about to have an NFL segment where we talk Week 1 overreactions. I'm putting you on the spot here. Do you have any Week 1 overreactions as you look back on NFL Sunday, Week 1, besides your Chiefs winning again?
Week 1 overreaction. I think the Eagles could be better than the San Francisco 49ers. I think Saquon Barkley went out there and kind of showed people that he's Saquon Barkley and what he can do behind a good offensive line. I mean, this dude was spectacular on Friday night. I was covering a high school game, and I was checking the stats, throughout the high school game I was covering, and, he was just going crazy. So I think that's my biggest overreaction. That might not be too bad, but the Eagles, I think, definitely put everybody on notice that they are the real deal. And I think 2 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl, I think they're having those goals this year.
No doubt. Also, plug your work that you're doing, with high school coverage, also your column that you write.
Yeah, man, you can catch me any of my writing. I'm a reporter for the Carteret County News-Times. You can find it on CarteretCountyNewsTimes.com or Coastal Carolina Online. And also I have a weekly, bi-monthly sports column coming out on Saturdays. So we'll have one this week. I'm talking a little bit about the Colorado Buffaloes and their somewhat struggles that they've been having this season. But yeah, you can catch me there, man. We'll see if you guys like any of my work. Let me know.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm taking that Colorado State money line on Saturday. Give me the Rams to beat Colorado. Maceo Donald, great stuff as always. You can follow him on Twitter/X at Maceo, Maceo Donald. Maceo, we appreciate it, man. As always, we'll talk with you next week. See you Saturday.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See you.
That is Maceo Donald, ECU sideline reporter. Does a great job also with the broadcast and was a great player at ECU during his time with the Pirates. All right, we'll come back. We will be joined by Chance Scott, Hoist the Colors intern. He's in the house. We've also got intern Nick, and we have Philip Pilkington, our producer. We're going to have our Week 1 NFL overreactions. We'll do that. We'll also talk ECU app a little more as well. We'll take a look around college football. Maybe discuss some of the interviews we just had with a few players over after football practice as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Hey Glenn, let's talk about a new program at Greenville Nissan.
Sure, sometimes bad things happen to good people, like credit hiccups.
Greenville Nissan just rolled out credit forgiveness.
If you've been making consistent car payments and you're tired of that high interest rate, this program is for you.
Get into a new Nissan with a manageable payment and keep that cash in the bank.
Come visit us at Greenville Nissan and drive your Nissan home today.
Hurry, this program ends September 3rd. Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arrgh!
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in color. and let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Everything you need to know in the world of ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, Tuesday, September 10th. Appreciate Maceo Donald's time. Always great to catch up with the former Pirate. You can hear him on the sideline this Saturday, Dowdy Ficklin Stadium, 4 o'clock kickoff, ECU App State. All right, we're going to have an NFL segment. We'll also talk some ECU. Let's introduce the cast. For the second straight week, we have Chance Scott, Hoist the Colors intern. He's back. Are you less nervous than last week?
Oh, I'm a lot less nervous. I went back and listened to it, and I was like, I didn't do as bad as I thought I did.
At the end of the day, we're just talking into mics. We're just having a conversation about sports. So
yeah, it's a lot easier than when I thought it was going to be, to be honest with you.
It's not that big of a deal. You just got to ignore the cameras. We got Philip Pilkington producing. Philip, what's up?
How's it going, guys?
We hear from you quite often on the show, so you're not nervous.
No.
Nick,
that wasn't my first time on mic.
This is true. Nick is with us as well. I don't know if we're going to get him on mic, but he'll have a take here shortly. So welcome, Nick, younger brother of Joey Football and Mr. Pancake. I think I'm going to call him Pancake because that's what he did on his highlight. Is he okay with that, or is that too lame?
He's giving you the thumbs up.
Okay. I'm going to call him Pancake. All right. Check out his huddle tape. Nick Sampson, pancaking dudes left and right. Let's get into it, fellas. Week 1 of the NFL is over. Again, we'll circle back to ECU in a little bit. Week 1 overreactions. Look, I mean, this is what we do. We are in sports radio. If there's anything we're good for, it's overreacting to one football game. That is what we're going to do. So who wants to kick it off? Who wants to go first? I'm not going first.
I will happily go first.
All right, Philip Pilkington.
As long as David Tepper is the owner of the Carolina Panthers, will never win another football game. He said he wasn't going to accept mediocrity. Well, they're not mediocre. They haven't been mediocre since he took over. This is the worst team in the league. He makes Dan Snyder look like a good owner. This is terrible. The fans should be allowed to fire the owner. If he has ever made a racial slur at you, if you're a woman and he has harassed you, please come forward and get this man to have to sell the team. This is terrible. I am done. I used to get mad when I went to the game and it was all the opposing team's fans because our fans weren't loyal, would sell their tickets to other teams. No, now we should do it. As a middle finger to David Tepper, your own fans won't even show up to your game because you're so trash. This is terrible. We're never winning another football game. I'm so mad. I'm only going to the game in a few weeks because I want to see Joe Burrow play. I don't even care about seeing this team anymore. They stink, and it's all his fault.
Saints 47, Panthers 10, and yeah, that's tough. Bryce Young, 13 of 30. Is it? Look, Chance is a Panthers fan. Philip, you're a Panthers fan. I'll get both of your take here. Is Bryce Young, is it too early to call he's a bust, or I don't know? Speaking of overreactions, what do you think, Chance?
I really don't know, to be honest. He looked good in the Packers game last year and threw for, almost 300 yards, won at Phillip, and then he comes out here and looks like that against the Saints. It's embarrassing on all fronts. The quarterback play, the defense play, everybody's just terrible.
So still wait and see?
Just not even waiting and seeing. I just know.
What do you think, Philip? Is he a bust?
I'm kind of in the wait and see still thing. So, like, his footwork's bad, something that can be worked on.
He's just small out there.
He is small, but the thing is, I think if he can get, advice from other small quarterbacks on, he's always trying to slide into the window where he can see a guy instead of just kind of naturally letting it happen, which is easier said than done, but he's only a couple inches shorter than Drew Brees. I think he's only an inch shorter than Russell Wilson. Both these guys have had successful NFL careers. Brees is obviously going to be a Hall of Famer. So, I think there's stuff to work on, and it's going to take time. It's going to take him more time than maybe it would take a bigger quarterback. But, yeah, I mean, hey, look, Dave Canales. I know, Dave Canales. But, I mean, my point is, yeah, it's false hope. I get that. But, I mean, you talk to call him a bust already. I mean, heck, he's only one game into his second season. This is not Jamarcus Russell where he refuses to watch film. At least he's trying. So, he probably will bust, but at least I think you can't call him that quite yet.
Kaysen Romeli says the Panthers will make the playoffs. What do you, Kaysen?
Cason's talking about his Madden league that he's in.
Cason, by the way, is going to be making his return to the press box this weekend. He's going to help us
All
out.
right. Nick told me that if the Panthers make the playoffs, I need to make a bet that I should eat my shoes. So, you know what? Just like Joey Football, I will buy some Crocs that are supposedly edible, so like little kids' ones, and I will eat a shoe if the Panthers make the playoffs this season.
There you go. It's on record. Philip will be eating a shoe, according to Cason. All right. Week 1 overreaction, Chance. What you got?
I was going to go Bo Nix, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to go Anthony Richardson is not a good quarterback. I don't care how good his arm is. I just don't think he's good. He was the same thing in college. He's athletic. He's got a rocket arm, but
makes great plays, but also questionable
makes
decisions.
Dumb reads, and I don't think he's going to last a long time in this league.
I didn't realize he went 9 of 19 for 212 yards. Good, I guess, yards per pass average, but 9 of 19, not going to get it done. And, yeah, I mean, the running is his strength, and, like, can you last in the league doing that?
I mean, we already seen it last year. He got hurt early, and then, speaking of his 9 for 19, he had, I think 2 or 3 big explosive plays, but then after that, he just seemed to can't find a way when they're in cover 3 and they got 3 high. He just struggles to find a lot of the open guys.
So Anthony Richardson, not a good quarterback, says Chance. We have the Panthers will never win another football game until David Tepper steps down. All right, Nick, you want to go here, and we'll get pancakes. Week 1 overreaction of NFL Week 1.
I would love to. I will say the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. It's interesting with the AFC North how the arguably worst quarterback team was the only one who got a win.
Yeah.
You had the Ravens, granted the toughest opponent they'll probably see all year, playing the Chiefs. The Bengals look sloppy, and the Browns are just put them to the side. And the Steelers they controlled the game. Justin Fields with no touchdown passes controlled the game throughout. I think he was 17 for 23, no touchdowns, no picks. They looked in control compared to the other games. I mean, the Ravens were in a dogfight the whole night. I mean, the Bengals struggled against the Patriots, and the Browns just were overpowered by the Cowboys on the O-line and on the defense. So I think the Steelers actually have a really good shot this year. The defense will definitely carry this team. Whether or not they can kind of keep it going through the stretch, if Russell Wilson comes back, if they keep Justin Fields, they just got to put it together and make the playoffs and see where you go from there.
Yeah, Justin Fields, it looks like, will start Week 2, according to reports, and not Russell Wilson in the return to Denver. So Steelers to the Super Bowl. Not only winning the NFC North or AFC North, but making the Super Bowl. That's what you got?
Yes, sir.
All right. That is a Week 1 overreaction. We'll see how it plays out. All right. I mean, I could go with the fact that Sean Payton is washed as a head coach, which I'm starting to trend more and more towards as a Broncos fan, and that Bo Nix looks completely in over his head as a 24-year-old rookie. But I'm going to go with another AFC team making the Super Bowl. And I'm already changing my Super Bowl pick, Philip. I had the Bengals making it. That's done. The Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl. Everybody wants to talk about, look, I get they just beat the Cardinals, but everybody wants to talk about how Josh Allen in this offense, they have no weapons. It doesn't matter because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. Josh Allen is going to put up points. He's going to make receivers look good. I have faith in Sean McDermott figuring out this defense. And the Buffalo Bills are going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship game to make the Super Bowl. That is my Week 1 overreaction, mainly because I have Josh Allen as my fantasy quarterback. But I also will be riding them to the Super Bowl. I'm going to place a bet right now. What do you think?
It's a good way to lose money, I guess.
Fair enough. I don't know. Am I too caught up in the Bills and Josh Allen, Nick? What do you think?
100%.
Yeah.
They did not control that game until late.
That's the Josh Allen script.
Yeah, as long as he can run around and do crazy stuff, jumping over people and diving to pylons, yeah, you'll win games. But when it comes down to it, they play a really good defense and a team that will actually know how to run the 2-minute drill. They'll be successful until you actually face a team that's good, and then you'll see them struggle.
Hey, just wait. Sean McDermott's going to make that Week 1 to Week 2 jump. The Bills are going to control whoever they play next week. Let me look it up real quick. Bills schedule. Bills at Dolphins. Oh man, it's not looking good.
On Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night. Wow, that'll be a good game. Then they play the Jags and Ravens, so they'll be tested. Kenny Curlin says there's room on the Cowboys train. Come on board. Nobody here is buying the Cowboys. We know that they're going to win in September, right?
I'll wait till November after Thanksgiving when they win, and $60 million is not going towards a quarterback.
Very fair. Kenny also says the Steelers will have a losing season. So he is in peak Cowboys fandom right now.
The one thing I will say about the Cowboys, now that I've slid back in here, their over-under win total the morning of the season start was 9.5. Kenny, I do think the Cowboys slaughter past that 9.5. Easy.
That does seem low.
Easy money for me. But, yeah, Cowboys are not going to the Super Bowl, and he is right. And the Knicks Steelers will finally have a losing record under Mike Tomlin. They're winning 8 games.
No way. They're going to the Super Bowl. Kaysen Rameli says the Bucks are a top 5 team in the league. Kaysen, get out of here.
Is he a Bucks fan?
So he thinks the Panthers are going to make the playoffs and the Bucks are a top 5 team? The NFC South is trash. Let's go to break. I can't even do it. I'm starting to sweat with these dumb takes. They're so bad. I gotta get to break. All right, we'll come back. We'll maybe touch on some more NFL. We'll talk college football. We'll get everybody's take on ECU app early in the week as well. This is Hoist the Colors.
We're down to the final days of our summer sales event at Greenville Toyota.
Lease new RAV4s, $319 a month. Test drive the redesigned 2025 Camry, all with our advantage.
It's your last chance to save at Greenville Toyota.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Let's go! Woo! Woo! Yeah! Football time!
Set the tone. Kyle, tie your shoes, tie your shoes. Yeah, good job.
Woo! Yeah!
Grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Summer is here, and Sawyer's Fun Park is having a toddler summer special. From 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday, Sawyer's has a $10 2-hour unlimited pass for ages 2 to 4. That's one toddler and one parent for just $10 every weekday morning. Sawyer's Fun Park summer hours are Monday through Thursday from 10 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays from 10 to 9, and Sundays from 12 to 8. Book your tickets online at SawyersFunPark.com and beat the heat this summer at Sawyer's Fun Park.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Hurry, the summer savings event is coming to an end. Don't miss your chance.
Enjoy your summer in a new Corolla for just $219 a month or a Highlander for only $399 a month. Got a trade? Get cash for it or trade for a new Toyota.
Hurry into Greenville.
Everything you need to know in the world of ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Steve and Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here. Got a few minutes left in the program. Philip Pokin producing, Chance Scott hanging out, Hoist the Colors intern in studio. We just had our NFL Week 1 overreaction hot takes. Jansen Kidd is in late. He says his mildly hot take is Trevor Lawrence has firmly solidified himself as a top 10 quarterback talent. Give him the tools and he'll be elite. I feel like the Jaguars have surrounded him with some pretty good players.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had like a true number one receiver. I mean, now Calvin Ridley's gone.
Yeah,
So
I guess receivers aren't great.
You've got Christian Kirk, and then they got one of the guys that was in Buffalo last year, right?
Yeah, they picked up a guy who used to be at UCF. I can't remember his name. But you're right.
Nick's looking it up.
The Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis,
Yep. And they have Etienne at running back. So, yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence I do think he's kind of being slept on, but we'll see how the Jaguars respond this season. All right, gentlemen, unless you guys want to keep dropping hot takes, we'll talk some ECU app here. We did a lot with Maceo. We'll go around the horn early week. Vibe check here. Chance, how you feeling about this game?
I'm feeling pretty good. I predicted last week that we would have scored 35. I think that's what I sent you at ODU, and I still believe we should have the drop pick 6. Just the turnovers really cut our score and probably half what we should have scored. So I'm pretty excited to go in this app game. I think this team's hungry from what we just talked to the players, a while ago. Elijah's hungry. Marlon Gunn's hungry. He talked about Rajay. Hasn't beat him since he's been here, and he wants to win. I think everybody in that building wants to win, and Daddy's going to come ready.
Are you worried at all that App played so bad against Clemson they're due for like a bounce back?
That's the only thing that scares me is that they just got their teeth kicked in, and every time we've seen App, something happens to them. The next 2 or 3 weeks, it's back to the App football that's physical. And, just they'll run it right down your throat with that stretch run, and they'll make you make a tackle. So it's going to be interesting. I think Zakai Barker's going to have a big game. The linebackers going to be big, and just probably like Raheem Craig to set the edge and control that stretch.
Yeah, the dynamics of this game are very interesting to me just because I think both teams – I mean, look, all teams want it bad, but I think this is going to be one of those games where you're going to have high emotion on both sides. Look, I know App State is going to be ticked off with how they played against Clemson. They go into those games expecting to win and truly expecting to win. So to get embarrassed by a good Clemson team, they're going to be ready to go. But ECU, I think there's some – they've had this game circled for a while, and I think if they don't play their best, I'll be disappointed and a little surprised. So we'll see what happens Saturday. How do you feel, Philip?
It's weird. It's early with ECU. There's a lot to clean up, and did they clean up some of it this week? Sure, but not as much as maybe you wanted to. I do think you're right. They've had it circled, and that's going to be a lot of motivation. To Maceo's point, this will be the fourth. The last 4 games out of conference, FBS, that are in-state teams have been App or NC State, which are the teams that, ECU seems to circle the biggest more so than they would a Duke or a Wake Forest or somebody like that. So, it feels the vibe in Greenville's good, but also App thinks they belong in those games. They hung with Carolina a couple of years back. I think they actually played them 2 years in a row. And they hosted game day because they had pulled off a big upset. And then they go into Clemson in a game they think they belong in. They thought 16.5 was too big of a spread, and they're down 35-0 in the first quarter. This is not the type of team that's going to show up with their tail still tucked between their legs. Man, they're a proud program, and they're going to come in ticked off, and they've beat us 2 of the last 4 years. They think they can do it again. And I think they've had this game circled too because even though they played Clemson, they know that there's a rivalry here. Our fans are, you got us good old boys from the coast and those weird mountain people and that put weird smelling oils on themselves and walk around barefooted. And they know that it's deeper than football. It's crazy people against beach people.
Sean Clark said that he doesn't think the crowd will affect App State, excuse me. I can see where he's coming from the standpoint of, look, they just played at Clemson with 82,000 people or whatever, and I don't know, they didn't play their best, clearly. But I guess he's saying since they were in that environment, it won't impact them. But if I'm an ECU player, that's something that fires me up a little more. And if I'm an ECU fan, Chance.
He shouldn't have said that. When we went to Michigan last year, 110 didn't really feel like 110,000. But when Dowdy's packed the way it was for the state game, I thought you could have told me there was any number of people, and I would have believed you.
Yeah. I feel like ECU, and I'm not going to say it's as loud as Death Valley because I've never been to Clemson. I'm sure it is extremely imposing. But when Dowdy gets rocking and the crowd gets into it, I can't remember the last time, Philip, that like a full or near capacity Dowdy Fickle and ECU didn't play well in. Like even the games when Scotty Montgomery's teams were not very good, in front of a full Dowdy, they played over their heads. And, I have this game as a loss on my preseason predictions. I'll be honest, the closer we get to kickoff, the more I'm liking ECU because of just I think it's going to be very tough for App to come into ECU's place and beat them, even coming off the Clemson game. So I don't know, Phillip, do you remember a time where Dowdy was packed and ECU didn't play well?
No, I don't, because if you mentioned, like you said, the Scotty Moe games.
And they should have won in 22 when it was packed. I mean, they should have.
And, like the Scotty Moe games, you think of the Carolina game that they won, and then the Virginia Tech game that they were up at halftime. So I would say the biggest one probably was the Desmond Ritter coming in with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Them being number 4 in the country. We didn't play great, but still, I don't know if that was quite the pact. That wasn't like the in-state rival pact. Anytime the in-state rival comes in, or even the South Carolina game a couple years back, we've played well. It's just come down to a couple plays, and they didn't go our way.
No doubt. All right, fellas, we were going to look at the college football slate, but we are out of time, and we'll do that a little bit on Wednesday's show. Chance, appreciate your efforts today. Thanks again to Maceo. Thanks again to Pancake in the back doing his thing. Best of luck to your Steelers. Not this weekend, but every other weekend to come in their path to the Super Bowl as they lose to the Broncos. Tomorrow we'll have David Ware from App State Mania. He's going to join us. We're also scheduled to have Kevin Monroe, once again, our usual Wednesday guest. So we'll get a look at App State, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. David Ware does great work covering the Mountaineers. We'll do that and talk to Kevin about the Pirates. It's going to be a fun week, ladies and gentlemen, leading up to Saturday, 4 o'clock. A lot of buzz starting to build for this App State ECU game. Stay tuned, 94.3 The Game, hoistthecolors.net, and all our coverage online. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon.
This has been Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo. Tune in weekdays at noon for all things ECU.